Welcome to another edition of Tabletop Game of the Week. As I teased last week, this week we're going to review Labyrinth, the board game. Based on the cult classic movie starring David Bowie as Jareth the Goblin King, Jennifer Connelly as Sarah, featuring the brilliance of the Jim Henson studio, the puppets and the puppeteering that we all know Jim Henson for. Super classic movie. Recently put out this board game just a few years ago. I had the pleasure of picking it up. It's super fun. It's not too hard to learn, definitely not too hard to play. Just to go over a few box basics with you before we crack it open and check out some of this very nostalgic pieces of the game, which is really fun. Age group here says 6+. I agree with that. Group size 1 to 5. Also agree with that. Although I would say it's best to play with 4 people. Get 3 of your friends involved, where each one of you can then be one of the characters from the movie there. And it says about 30+ minutes. I also agree with that. Maybe your first time's going to take a little longer, like most games do. But let's crack this thing open and check out some of the fun goodies inside. So like I showed you, we got miniatures to play with. So here's Ludo and Sir Didymus. Of course, we got Jareth as the Goblin King, and David Bowie, Sarah, played by Jennifer Connelly, and Hoggle. So, really fun little nostalgic minis there, first of all, which is always fun. Here's our game clock. Told you it was a 13-hour game time here, so each round of the game you're going to progress this 1 hour forward. If you haven't reached the Goblin King and saved Sarah's little baby brother by the 13th hour, he forever stays with the goblins and the Goblin King inside the labyrinth. Looks like we got some play cards in here. So here's kind of our character cards. Again, like just all the different people from the movie there. Sarah, Hoggle, Sir Didymus, and Ludo. And you'll see it's a dice-based game, and you're going to move, depending on the character, each one moves a different amount, right? Each one has different wit, a different brawn, stuff like that. Pretty neat. There's all these cards you're going to go around the board flipping over, and that's probably my favorite part of the game. Each one of these cards actually depicts a scene from the movie, right? So here's our gloomy, scary forest, and we flip this one over and we get ambushed by fireys, which brings me definitely right back to the movie. You get to do fun things like recite the magic dance poem from the game. Bowie saying, "You remind me of the babe." What babe? Babe with power. What power? Power of the voodoo. Who do? You do. Do what? Remind me of the babe. Things like that. Really, really fun. So play's going to proceed one at a time. You're going to move depending on the dice that you roll. You're going to land on a card. And if that card has not been flipped over, you're going to flip it over and just do what it says. It might say something like roll a wit die against another opponent, or you got to defeat the ambush of fireys, and you got to defeat them with brawn, and you're going to roll different sided dice to represent that. You win, the card stays flipped up, and the play proceeds. You just keep going around the circle here until you flip over the card that reveals the Goblin Gate. Once you reveal the Goblin Gate, game moves on into the second phase, where the party is then going to attempt to make it all the way into the castle, confront Jareth. Sarah needs to read the spell, robbing Jareth and the Goblin King of his power and saving her baby brother. All in all, it's a pretty straightforward game. It's just full of memories. I highly recommend you watch the movie before playing it, or at worst after playing it, but it really will be better if you watch it beforehand and you have all the magic dance songs in your head, and you have all the scenes with Bowie and the crystal ball floating around and the bog of eternal stench and the oubliette and things like that, which are all represented in the game, which is really fun. Game itself sells online anywhere from about $35 to $50, kind of depending on condition and retailer, of course, where you get it. They did put out an expansion just a few months ago, which I had the chance of picking up, but I haven't played yet. Anyway, I highly recommend the game. I highly recommend watching the movie if you've never seen it, or if you haven't seen it since you were a kid. Definitely go check it out. I know it's on Amazon Prime right now. Not sure what other streaming services that it's currently on. Let's tease next week's game a little bit. off around the table here. This is a Doctor Who the card game. This is probably my newest board game. I've played this exactly one time. It's pretty awesome. I will say as a quick teaser, you have to be really familiar with the series to watch this one. But I still want to review it, show you some fun stuff, so make sure you check in next week.